What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Today, I want to talk to you about the Green Hornet movie, starring Seth Rogen, Jay Chow, Christoph Waltz, and Cameron Diaz. This also has James Franco. He's in one scene, and the guy who played Sheriff Hopper in Stranger Things and the recent Hellboy movie, David Harbour. He is in this, and this was back before anyone knew who he was. And I didn't hate this movie, but I did not like it at all. And there were long chunks of the movie that I really wanted to stop watching it, but I kept going to do this review because I've been doing all these Green Hornet reviews lately. But I actually saw this movie once years ago, and I don't remember hating it very much then, but I also don't think I loved it because I never bothered rewatching it. And now I'm a little more familiar with the Green Hornet, a little more familiar with the mythos. I wouldn't go so far as to call myself a Green Hornet fan. There are a couple of stories I liked. I thought the Green Hornet Meets the Spirit, I thought that was okay, and I really liked Green Hornet Year One. But overall, I wouldn't say that I'm just like a diehard Green Hornet enthusiast. But this movie, I think I would have been a little more on board if they said, we're going to kind of do a parody of superhero movies that's kind of serious in places, but mostly this is a farce, and then we're going to create a new character and we'll call him like the Crimson Menace or something like that. And then you can cast Seth Rogen and you can do a kind of typical Seth Rogen movie that just happens to be about a superhero. I think that I would have been a little bit more on board. I don't know if I would have been just like, yeah, I have to go see that movie. I'm not just a big Seth Rogen fan. I don't disdain him, but I also don't go seek out his movies. But I think I would have been a little more okay with that if they weren't co-opting the Green Hornet and trying to turn it into this almost farcical comedy. This movie does not work. And I really think if I knew nothing about the Green Hornet, I don't think that this movie would work for me either. There are so many weird things here, things that they're trying to bend this story that is not a Green Hornet story, and they're trying to warp it in such a way so that it works as a Green Hornet story, and then that itself makes the movie not work. They kill a lot of people in this. There's one point in their first official outing as Green Hornet and Kato. Kato picks up a gun and straight up shoots a dude in the face, and after we've seen some of the stuff that he does, you can't make me believe that he couldn't have disabled that guy in a non-lethal way. What I liked about Green Hornet Year One is that both Green Hornet and Kato are not going to kill people. They are very firm on that. I liked that a lot. I wish that these guys had a little bit more of a firm moral code where they weren't going to be killing their enemies. At one point, they set a meth lab on fire, and as far as I know, there was no one in the building, but they didn't know that. They went into the room and they talked to one guy, and then they get in the car and they set the place on fire as they're leaving. He gets out, but they didn't know that he would get out, and they didn't know if there was anyone else in there. And then at one point, Britt gets a gas gun from Kato, and Kato is trying not to say it, but basically he gives this to Britt because he sucks at fighting, and he wants Britt to be able to take care of himself when he's out there as the Green Hornet. And they play that kind of as a joke, but I sat there thinking, why does he have a gas gun? These guys clearly don't have any problems killing people. And then at the end of the movie, spoilers, we find out that the district attorney is actually corrupt, and he's actually working with the other bad guy of the movie, this gangster called Chudnovsky, and he actually, the district attorney, is the one who killed Britt's father earlier in the movie. And they end up, they were going to try and expose him through the power of the media, and I'll get to that in a minute, and then that didn't work because the recording that Britt had, where that guy, the district attorney, admitted to everything, it didn't turn on or something. He didn't have the recording that he thought he had, so then they just run over him with a car. They've got the car at the top of the newspaper building, and they run over him with it, and then it just crushes him after falling thousands of feet. And man, I hated that. This movie was acting like Green Hornet for the first two-thirds of it. He is rebelling against his father, and he's trying to do his own thing, kind of a middle finger to his dad, but also he's trying to do good in the form of the Green Hornet. And then near the end, around the time when all the action starts in the third act, he finds out that his dad died trying to do the right thing and standing up to the corruption of the DA. And so then he is going to go back to his father's newspaper, and he's going to upload this story to the internet and say, like, look, the DA is corrupt. and I like the idea of him using the power of the media to stop this guy, because that's how his father battled corruption and fought crime, through legitimate means of the newspaper. And then, oh, it's a joke, he didn't actually turn the recording device on, haha, and I hated that. And then they just kill him very brutally, and that almost felt like that should have been a rated R killing. This isn't rated R, it is PG-13, but that felt like that kind of skirted the line a little bit. But I really wish that they had committed a little more to this being, okay, he's back to liking his father now, and I wasn't really sure how I felt about that, because we see his father in two scenes. One, where Britt is a little boy, and he was trying to defend this girl from some bullies on the playground. We don't see it happen, but he's talking about it, and then his father takes Britt's action figure and rips the head off. And then later, Britt has been partying, and he's got a girl, and then his dad comes in and says, you humiliated me. My newspaper printed the story about you throwing a wild party at a hotel. You make me sick. And then the next thing we know, his dad is dead. And so everything that we see with his dad, he is just a complete jackwagon. And then they even kind of talk about that, Britt and Kato, a little bit. Kato worked for his dad, and I need to talk about that too. I really should have made some notes here, because I've got a lot of things to say about this movie. But Kato built cars for Mr. Reed. I don't know why. Mr. Reed is a newspaper editor. He wouldn't need thousands of these awesome-looking cars that look like someone in their 20s who's a billionaire would collect these cars. Tom Wilkinson, I think, the guy who played Falcone from Batman Begins, he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who would be a collector of these neat-looking cars. But apparently, even before Kato met Britt, he was turning these cars into James Bond-type cars, like with the saw that comes out of the axle of the wheel and can kind of saw up another vehicle, and it's bulletproof almost, and then you could take a golf club and hit it and it won't do any damage to the window. And why was he making this car for Britt's dad? His dad wasn't a superhero. He wasn't a secret agent. Why did he need this car? Now, it would make sense if Kato is the mastermind behind everything, and after he meets Britt, Britt says, I want to do this thing where I'm the Green Hornet, and then he says, okay, let me build this car, and then it will be able to protect us and all this. Why did he build the car before he met Britt? That was weird. But anyway, Britt and Kato, they are talking about, your dad was kind of a jerk, and then Britt is like, yeah, he was. So they go and they saw off the head of the statue of his dad that's in the park, and then while they're doing that, Britt sees a couple that's about to get mugged by like 20 gangsters. I was thinking, how many gangsters does it take to mug one couple? And so Britt tries to stop them, and then Kato actually comes in, and I really hated the action scenes with Kato. I don't know much about Jay Chow, but I looked him up, and he's been in some martial arts type movies, so I assume that he has some experience doing actual martial arts. But they did a whole lot of camera angles and CGI stuff to really cover up that they were probably using a stuntman, I assume, but I wish we could have just seen him kick butt instead of doing this. They're doing the Sherlock Holmes, Robert Downey Jr. Method of time stops, and he's able to compute everything, and he can see this and see that, and then he's able to kind of figure out a strategy in like 0.5 seconds. They're doing that. I hated it. I just want to see Kato fight. I don't want to see him turn into a human computer like Sherlock Holmes. I was okay with it in that one movie, but every time I see some other media rip that off, I hate it. I did not like it here. I saw it in the early episodes of the Flash TV series. Didn't like it there. I just want to see Kato be awesome. I don't want to see him have borderline superpowers. And then at the very end of the movie, the Green Hornet kind of starts to have that too. And that didn't feel earned, because this movie makes a joke out of him through the entire film, and then suddenly he's got the computer fast analytical mind, when 5 minutes earlier in the movie he's thinking about, okay, this is how D.A. Scanlon is connected to the crime lord and all this, and then D.A. Scanlon says, you've been staring at me with that blank look on your face for like 5 minutes, and they make another joke out of it. But then later he's able to do the super fast thinking thing where he can see everything he needs to see. No, that doesn't work. You did not earn that. Now, I don't mind the Green Hornet being a less capable fighter than Kato. I think that's how it is in just about every version of the Green Hornet. Now, most of the time, he's not played as a joke like he is here. In the Kevin Smith scripted Green Hornet comic from about 10 years ago or so, he's kind of played as a joke. That's actually Britt Jr. there. And then in the Green Hornet Meets the Spirit, Barrett, he's kind of a laughingstock a little bit, but not nearly as much as this movie. And like I say, if this wasn't a Green Hornet movie, if this was just Seth Rogen saying, I want to do a comedy about a superhero who sucks at being a superhero, that would have been fine. I think people would have enjoyed that. But they're trying to make this into a Green Hornet story, and it doesn't seem like they're interested in that. You got Edward James Olmos here. He is completely wasted in this movie. He is Britt's father's friend, and then he's, I guess, the highest-ranking guy at the newspaper other than Britt. And then at the very end, Britt says, I'm going to let this guy run the newspaper now. And I was thinking, I figured you would do that, like, as soon as your father died. I was kind of expecting a little bit of a Alfred or Lucius Fox thing from Batman Begins, where this guy was dear friends with Britt's father, and then he's going to be kind of a confidant, not quite like Lucius Fox, but sort of, where he's going to let this guy run the paper, the family business, and then he can come to him whenever he wants and say, hey, this Green Hornet thing, maybe do some stories on that, and he can get a little bit of pushback on that. But no, he's in like 2 or 3 scenes. He has about 5 minutes of screen time total in the movie. That's a shame. I think he's a great actor. I wish he was in more of this movie. I don't even hate the idea of Seth Rogen being in this, but I think once they landed on Seth Rogen as their guy, I think they kind of tried to tailor this to make it more of a Seth Rogen movie, and that's what I don't like. I didn't need nearly as much stupid comedy here as what we got, where Britt is trying to hit on Lenore Case, played by Cameron Diaz, and then she's not interested, and then she acts like she's interested in Kato, and they're at her place. He's playing the piano, and she's sitting beside him, and then he like reaches beside her to play the piano still, and then she kind of like pulls away, and I thought, I don't get it. You're sending a little bit of mixed signals here, because you were acting like you were interested earlier, and now you're acting like you're not, and then fortunately, they don't have her actually become a love interest, because even though, obviously I didn't think that Seth Rogen and her were going to end up with each other, but I thought, man, he's being really cringy. And at one point she says, if you ever look at my butt again, I'll sue you for sexual harassment. I was thinking, there's like a dozen different points in this movie that you could have sued him for sexual harassment. Like, in that part, this movie did not age well. Like, he first walks into his office, and Kato is sitting at the desk, and she's waiting to see him. And then he says, Kato, I have a question. Who is this hottie with a body who's sitting right over here? And I was thinking, no, please, no. And I like that she doesn't fall for either of them, although I thought she was going to fall for Kato. It seemed like she was kind of interested in him, and then she's not. I like her role, where she took a minor in criminology, and she kind of knows about all this stuff, so she is inadvertently giving them information on what they should do. I wish that she had a little bit more of a role, other than being the attempted romantic conquest. Overall, I think this movie was very sloppy, and I think it could have been good. I think if they had just made a Green Hornet story that's serious with like 20% comedy, I think I would have been okay with that, 20 to 25%. Or make a Seth Rogen story that is not a Green Hornet story, and then you could do 80 to 85% comedy, and you can have a little bit of serious sprinkled in there, but have it be a kind of funny thing, be a spiritual successor to the Batman show from the 1960s. Don't make a Batman movie with Seth Rogen, please don't, but you could do something along that tone, and I think that would have worked a little better. I think more people would have been interested in that. People would have said, hey, Seth Rogen is funny in all these movies that he's in. I can't think of any right now, but he's funny, I guess, so maybe we're going to go watch this thing. It's making fun of superheroes, because this was after The Dark Knight, so superheroes were huge at this point. This was right before the Avengers, I think, and I think that people would have been down for that. I might have been down for it. I would have at least watched it once. But overall, I am not surprised that this didn't make a sequel, although I think if they had done a sequel, I probably would have liked it more than this one. Because there's like half the movie where Kato and Britt are arguing about which one of them is more important. Kato thinks that he's the big guy behind it, and he is, and Britt thinks he's the guy behind it, and he's really not. He's the one who came up with the idea, and I like that. I like that he is the one who came up with all this idea, but then Kato's the one actually doing it all. That's usually how it is. Kato is more effective at doing all this, and Britt is kind of the mind behind it all. But they spend like half the movie arguing with each other over a woman, and also over their roles as superheroes pretending to be supervillains, and if they had made a sequel, they wouldn't have done that. I think they would have just been Green Hornet and Kato. There probably still would have been a lot of that humor that I didn't want here, but you know, whatever. So I did not like this movie, and I think after doing this video, I like it even less than I did right before starting the video. I laughed a few times. I will say that the humor was not a total bust. There were a few times I did chuckle. There's one part where Britt is looking through a notepad of drawings that Kato did, and Kato drew like a woman in a sexy pose, and then he says, "Kato, are you a pervert?" I thought that was funny. There are some funny moments here, but like when Britt accidentally knocked himself out with the knockout gas, and he finds out he's been in a coma for 11 days. I thought that was funny, but overall, I wish those funny moments had been in another movie, and I'm spinning my wheels here. I didn't care for this. If you somehow haven't seen this movie, if you find it cheap somewhere, you could probably buy it and enjoy it. Buy it for $1, maybe, but overall, I'd say you could give this one a skip. So those are my thoughts on the Green Hornet movie. I hope that you guys liked this video, and if you did, be sure to check out some of the other videos I do around here, and I will see you guys in the future. Have a good one.